Emotions are a weird thing. We don't particularly understand them, at least not to the fullest extent. We know love, connection, friends, and drunk driving make us happy. We know breakups, death, and isolation make us sad. We know betrayal, disrespect, and losing blackjack make us mad. But sometimes, we don't know. We fall in love and don't understand why, or an upbeat song makes us super sad. We occasionally wake up full of anxiety for no reason. We snap at somebody over a trivial thing, or maybe we watch a show about bunny girls and it gives us clinical depression. You've probably heard this song before, but if you haven't, you've probably seen this girl in various AMVs. Her name is Mai, and she comes from a show called... Rascal Does Not Dream of a Bunny Girl. Yes, that's the title. But it's clickbait. This show is not about bunny girls. Just look at the timeline, Jesus Christ. It's a heartfelt romance story about growth, acceptance, development, and a tale on how to be a better person. Boring! If you know me, I would rather be strapped on an electric chair while listening to Taylor Swift than watch a romance story. To me, romance stories, even the good ones, are not entertaining. I recently watched The Notebook, which is considered one of the greatest movies of all time, but besides Ryan Gosling, I didn't enjoy it, and concluded that romance stories just aren't for me. But if you throw in a cool premise, I'll gobble down any romance story you shove down my throat. Just like... Two idiots trying their hardest not to confess their feelings and get the other person to confess was hilarious, and I wanted to see what bullshit ways they would think of to avoid that. It was such a good show that when I finished season 2, I yearned to see something else that could possibly come close to how entertaining it was. So I scoured through the romance genre like a meth addict looking for a crack pipe. I watched Horimiya, Toradora, and Hyoka, but they were pretty mid. The last one, however, was Bunny Girl Senpai, which wasn't what I was looking for. It was so much more. Puberty syndrome is a condition that appears during puberty, which signifies a person's internal conflict in an outward manner. For example, getting bullied online results you in getting actual bruises all over your body. Being a TV star wanting to disappear from everyone's view makes you actually invisible, and having an inferiority complex to your older sibling makes you switch bodies. This supernatural element makes the story super interesting and creates stakes, as in, if we don't fix this issue soon, nobody will be able to see her and she'll cease to exist, which encapsulates how real and serious these issues are to these characters. Anime usually makes a very strong distinction between reality and their story. I watch Demon Slayer to see Demon Slayer slay demons, and I watch Jujutsu Kaisen to see the Kaisen be Jujutsu, but when I watched this show, I wasn't watching this show. I was in this show, with them on this adventure. I was there with the main character, helping to save these girls from life-ending scenarios. Speaking of the main character, does this look like a good protagonist? No, he looks like the most bland, self-insert, boring, uninteresting character who solves all the issues of these attractive girls and makes them fall in love with him. But this is far from reality. Sakuta has a strong moral compass. He defends the defenseless and goes out of his way to help a lover, friend, or a stranger. He speaks his mind regardless of how unfiltered he appears. When he was solving the first puberty syndrome case with Mai, he never took advantage of her and risked his reputation as a student to save her. He values others above himself, which often comes at his expense. To fully understand how self-destructive his personality is, I'll have to explain the premise of the first movie, but I won't spoil which girl has the puberty syndrome because it's a pretty important plot point. So somebody has a heart disease, and Sakuta is supposed to die and give that somebody his heart as a donor. Sakuta knows this in advance, as well as the day he's gonna die, and he's so determined to save this person's lives he's willing to give up his own. Mai, however, doesn't fuck with that. She doesn't want her boyfriend to sacrifice himself, which leaves Sakuta battling this internal conflict, which acts as a massive stepping stone for his development. Do I save this innocent girl, or do I live with Mai and carry the burden of her death? This isn't something a generic harem protagonist has to deal with. He has everything it takes to be a multi-dimensional character, which is why some of the girls fall in love with him, but others don't. His relationships with others feel deserved, especially since the other side characters are also incredibly written. Each and every one of them has a unique and interesting personality. Their interactions make the anime feel special, whether they're just chatting in a cafe or pulling on my heartstrings with that train scene. This is what drives the show. You have to experience that for yourself. The witty dialogue, the fun interactions, and the way these characters can't fully communicate their ideas because of how they perceive the world via trauma makes them feel so real. The main couple also flirts with each other. Yes, that's right. Anime characters flirt. And it's not cringe! We have peaked. Just look at this scene.
彼氏の顔を見てる。ドキッとしたでしょ。
舞さん浮かれてる？
久しぶりに彼氏とゆっくり会えてお泊まりしてるんだから当たり前でしょ。
お詫びはお詫びで欲しいな。
今添い寝してあげてる。
もっとこうネズミの鳴き声的な。
別にお詫びを理由にしなくても時と場所と雰囲気をちゃんと選んでくれれば。痛いわね。
舞さんが恥ずかしがってうつむくから。
作田ががっつくからよ。今日はもうおしまい。作田が下手くそだからじゃない。
うわ、それ傷つくな。舞さ
ん。何よ。
すげえ好きです。
知ってる。
Me too, buddy. Me too. This anime is produced by Cloverworks, who have worked on many popular shows. The production quality is sky high, and the art style is gorgeous, as long as you don't look at the umbrellas. And the soundtracks... Let me play this real quick. If you've seen the show, you feel what I'm feeling. Every aspect of the show is incredible, to a marginal extent, but this still doesn't explain how it broke me. Well, it made me cry, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is, because I don't cry. Period. I have not cried since, as far as I remember. I tend to live life in a very emotionally neutral way. Things that should make me really excited make me sort of happy, and things that should make me really sad only make me slightly upset. I know I sound like this while saying that, but it's true. That's the way I navigate life, because of the real men don't cry stigma and the whole red pill manosphere constantly bombarding you with new information, deciding what does and doesn't make you a man, no matter how surface level it is. Because of that, it's becoming increasingly harder to be authentic to yourself. Don't show emotions to get the girl of your dreams. Do this, do that, be this. I don't care how you feel. Pay for my courses and you'll get everything you've ever wanted. It's all noise. Noise that doesn't leave your head. Thanks to social media, we're constantly overstimulated, leaving us with no time to think, process emotions, or figure out what the fuck is happening inside our heads. We're supposed to be the most connected generation, yet it feels like the opposite. We're chronically online. Approaching somebody and saying hi is now considered weird, meaning making friends is harder than ever. That also means you have nobody to turn to when you're hurting, and even if you do, you have to solve certain problems on your own. That's when fictional stories come into play. They comfort me because they're not real. I can express myself however I want because it's fiction, and nobody can judge me on what I can or cannot feel. Upon every rewatch of the show, I can enter another reality where I don't have to mask who I am or fear that people won't think I'm a real man if I show my emotions. And every time the show ends, I'm hit with that post-anime depression. I get that bittersweet feeling because no matter how many times I watch it, no matter how much I love the characters, the story, the soundtracks, it's not reality. And that's why it breaks me. But if it makes me so sad and depressed, why do I watch it? Wouldn't it be better to avoid a show that can make my entire reality so painful to live in? Well, no, because after a week or two of depression, I feel incredible! Almost like this show filled me up with energy to combat any problem I thought was unfaceable before. It's like a friend I can always turn to, like a loved one I can tell anything to. It allows me to express my emotions, and that feels amazing. Those gloomy thoughts are gone. The noise disappears. It's a way for me to process what I'm feeling without bothering anyone, and that's why this show means so much to me. And I would recommend it to you without a single doubt in my mind. If it weren't for the fact, it's actually not that good. What the fuck do I mean by that? Well, in my books, it's a masterpiece. But if I put my bias aside and look at it objectively, the story is good at best, but not even close to what I consider it to be. The puberty syndrome sounds like a unique plot device, but it's actually based on a real-life phenomenon called quantum physics. Yes, you heard me right. The puberty-related problems our characters struggle with are connected to quantum physics. Well, that sounds kinda interesting. Why is that bad? Because it allows our protagonist to go to this generic smart girl who just happens to know every concept of quantum physics, and when he asks her about the problem, she gives him an answer that always leads him into the right direction. This feels cheap since it doesn't allow our characters to figure things out on their own. And the worst part about it is, it's not even accurate to quantum physics. Sometimes just random bullshit that the author hopes we don't notice, like when two characters talk about the puberty syndrome and the conversation goes like this. I'm trapped in a loop that repeats the same day repeatedly. That means another person is also trapped in the same loop. This, first of all, is not how a human being would respond to such a claim. A normal person would say, Are you fucking with me? Did you forget your medicine? Second, the conversation leads up to the Laplace's demon theory, which is an actual thing. Laplace's demon is a being that can perfectly calculate the position and behavior of every particle in the universe, and therefore can predict the future, which is cool, but the characters then conclude that time is looping because somebody connected to Sakata is the Laplace's demon. Now, this makes no fucking sense! If somebody can accurately predict the future, the time would just be clairvoyant, with the characters having insight into what's gonna happen next, but they still can't loop it. The author relies on explaining these concepts by dumping as much exposition on the viewer in a short time, hoping that you don't notice he made bullshit up on the spot. Almost all puberty syndrome cases are explored poorly, and many plot points in the story can happen out of pure convenience. This character happens to be displaced at the perfect time, so we can continue the story progression. Much about the story is unrefined, which doesn't make it an objectively good show, but even though it's not a masterpiece, the emotional impact it had on me was undeniable. I'm not a unique case. Many people experience the post-Bunny Girl clarity. They describe it as a feeling of melancholy, sadness, and depression, which I wish you experienced for yourselves. So even though Bunny Girl Senpai is not an objective masterpiece, it's a story that me and many others will never be able to forget. If you like this video, I suggest giving my Why We Watch Anime video a shot as well, where I dive into the human psyche trying to understand why the genre of anime appeals to us. I'm endlessly grateful for the time you spent on this video, and goodbye, my Gabfrusies.
Sun is down, freezing cold. That's what we already know. Sans Undertale fucked my wife.